And I just wanted to start off just with a wee, I suppose it's like a little prayer, but I don't think I thought of it as a prayer up to now. But it's a prayer from one of the resources that we've created in Soil Soul Society. And it's just about healing. So I'm just going to read that just to allow people to arrive well this evening. We recognise the need for healing. Healing the separation of people and wider nature. Healing the soil from ways of soil management that are extractive and degenerative. Healing the soul of the land and the souls of all those who love you. Let us dig where we stand. Let us recover old place names and wisdom of the land carried by them. Let us go barefoot on the soil, earthing ourselves and connecting with Antalav, the land. Let us speak our language, the language of the land, sing and speak and taste the words that bring us healing. Let us remember the ways of living and being that are reciprocal, regenerative and restorative for soil, for society, and for the soul of this land and the souls that live here. And so I'm just going to invite you now just to tune into whatever land mass that you are finding yourselves on, because we're standing on land masses in many different countries here this evening. And if you want, you can just notice your feet on the ground, if your feet are able to touch the ground. But just starting to connect with that land beneath us. Acknowledge the land, acknowledge the soil, the land that our ancestors walked on. So just a nod to the ancestors, to all the more than human beings who have worked and who are continuing to work to preserve and care for the land. And just taking a wee moment of gratitude for all that the land provides, from a place of reciprocity and humans as nature, rather than just what the land only does for us. And I'm going to borrow from an old Irish tradition. So I'm zooming in from Ireland this evening. And maybe some of you have similar traditions in your own country. But in Ireland, there's a tradition of banging the boundaries and banging the land awake in order to create our wee connection with the land. There's a man going around Ireland at the minute called Monaghan Mangan. And he's been inviting audiences as he speaks to them to stamp the land awake. And so in a moment, I'm going to invite you, wherever you find yourselves, to stamp your land awake. I'm going to invite you to stamp your foot, if that's possible, 3 times, to let the land just know that you're here, to connect with the land, to let it know you want a wee relationship with the land. And it's a way of honouring and giving thanks and connecting to the land and just recognising how the land holds us. So if you feel comfortable and if you're able, I want you just to get ready, and just with that intention of connection and gratitude, I'm just going to count slowly, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to just stamp the land beneath us. So when you're ready, 1, 2, 3. So we've invited the land and the ancestors and the soil into this conversation, which is very important given that it's World Soil Day. And I'll just actually start screen sharing. It's a lovely picture for World Soil Day. So this is World Soil Day 2024. And there's a lovely quote just in terms of, because we're coming from many different places, I'm sure there's many different languages among us. And I was reminded of this quote by a writer called Robin Wall Kimmerer. And she says, "I remember the words of Bill Tallbull, a Chean elder. As a young person, I spoke to him with a heavy heart, lamenting that I had no native language with which to speak to the plants in the places that I love. They love to hear the old language," he said, "it's true. But," he said, with fingers on his lips, "you don't have to speak it here. If you speak it here," he said, patting his chest, "they will hear you." So just by way of introducing that idea, I would like to invite you in the chat box to write your name, the word for soil in your home language. So home might be the place you were born, might be the place you've found yourself ending up in, or it might be somewhere you've lived along the way. Um, and just an invitation to write down which ecosystem you're joining us from this evening. So I'll stop sharing a wee second. So just your name, the different words from soil in our home languages, and which ecosystem you're joining us from this evening. That hair, beautiful. Great. So we've ecosystems of buildings and trees. There's some beautiful words coming up here. I feel like I should be hearing them from people's own lips. Seem beautiful. Wow. Thank you. So we're getting a taste of different words for soil and the different ecosystems that people are coming from this evening. Great. Beautiful. So we can see some similarities. It's lovely. Okay. So as those lovely invitations continue to come in, I'm just going to share. This was the invitation, I suppose, that was sent out that brought you here this evening. So as part of the project Soil Soul Society, questions have been coming up for us over the last 2 years. And two of these questions are this: what would soil say if we took the time to listen? And what stories of trauma, resilience, memory, and transformation would it share? So just to introduce ourselves, my name is Grania and I'm coming from an organisation called Síolta Cree, which in Irish means seeds of the heart. And our tagline is regenerating people and wider nature. And on this project, we've been linking with Kobiety in Poland and Dreams for Life in Romania around this project, Soil Soul Society. And I think the reason we wanted to include this is it's become a very big part of the work that we've been doing, as well as this word sovereignty. So in terms of soil, the work we do in Síolta Cree, we're looking at regenerative practices with farmers, with land custodians, with community groups, and we're looking at practical ways to do ecosystem restoration work. In terms of soul, we're looking at regenerating and restoring the humans as parts of these ecosystems, as well as listening to the soul of the places we feel belonging to and looking at what needs healed in those places. From the perspective of society, the work that we do, social justice underpins everything that we do in our work. So what are the systems and structures that are not working for people and wider nature? And how can we do something about this? And then in terms of sovereignty, food and seed sovereignty has really come to the fore for us as a lens, as well as one of the ways that we can go about doing this work. So sovereignty, meaning the right and the ability to sow and grow our own food, to save and freely exchange our own seeds with others doing the same practices, and to advocate for food systems that are fair, accessible, and in the right relationship with nature. And And we'd also like to dedicate this session this evening to the people and the wider nature in Palestine. And when we think of soil, soul, society, seeds, and sovereignty, all of these are under attack at the minute during this genocide. And we find it hard to talk about these issues just as words in and of themselves. We can't talk about them in isolation from what's going on in this part of the world. So I'll just pause here for a few moments just to kind of let us just bring our attention and our thoughts to what's going on in Palestine at the minute. Okay, so this was the project that we were working on, Soil Soul Society, and it all came from the inspiration of a writer called Satish Kumar, and he says, "Let's put the soul back into the soil. Let's put soil back into our body. Let's put soul into our society." And so we got together with the two organisations that I've mentioned, and this talk we're doing this evening is the third of 3 weeks of talks we've been doing on the different themes, starting with soul, then society, and now this evening we're ending with looking at soil. Okay, is everybody okay? Is everyone still with me? I realise I've been talking a while lot, but in a wee minute. What's that?
You want the video we talked about? Do you wanna?
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. So we'll just play a video that we have created looking at Soil Soul Society. So let me see how I get
I
this
can
up.
do it here, Granny, if you want.
Yeah, you're all right doing that. That'd be great.
We're here at Shield Degree, just outside Carrickmacross, County Monaghan. I'm Conan. I've been here since 2020. So it's a cooperative organisation. We're involved in restoring the ecosystems of the earth. That's through regenerative cultures, regenerative food systems. We see ourselves as part of nature. We're restoring nature, but we're also restoring ourselves. So the healing of the person and the healing of the communities and the healing of the land are not separate sort of issues. They're all interlinked, they're interwoven. So healing soil, healing rivers, healing people and healing animals.
So for us, soil is a really good way to start the conversation, as well as offering many opportunities to restore the soil and figuring out ways that can restore us as individuals, as citizens. And it gives us a really tangible way to do something practical in our own local spaces, and joined up all those different local spaces add up to a bigger movement of soil restoration, of healing our own small space and healing for ourselves too.
In the way that we treat the soil right now, in our chemical, monocultural, very intensive industrial agricultural systems, the soil is degrading faster than it ever has before. It's much more visible in Africa or in other places than it is out here, because we still have green in Ireland, we still have that climate, we still have that water available. But the soil is getting compacted, it's losing its structure, it's losing its microbiology, and it's losing its integrity and ability to act as a sponge and to facilitate that plant growth and rejuvenation. We did a regenerative agriculture course for farmers. People had 5 jars, and in the different 5 jars were 5 different soil samples. And even people from the city, whether you're from a poor area in the city or an affluent area in the city or the countryside, and you knew the difference between different soils, people just by smelling the soil could tell the difference between what was good and what was bad, and how each soil was related to what was around it. So it's not something that you need to have experience in, it's sort of inherently in our being. We've not lost it.
So there's lessons we can still take today from Gortamore. The potato failed, and the Irish people were reliant on one variety mainly of potato, and that monocultural approach to farming was a legacy of how our food was being controlled, and controlling the food is one really good way to control the people. But when we look at how we interact with food in today's world, not much has really changed. We're still propping up this monocultural economy. We're propping up a form of agriculture that encourages people to buy imported food and the limited varieties of the food that we're eating, taking back control of our seeds, taking back control of our food from the big companies that are making huge profits from it. That is one way that we can learn lessons from An Mór and apply it to today's world. So supporting localised food systems, supporting local food hubs, growing our own, saving our seed, all these are ways to talk to our own history in a way that can feel quite empowering to grow this movement of food and seed sovereignty in this country.
Permaculture is about 3 simple principles of earth care, people care and fair share. It's about a new systems way of thinking. So stepping out of the system that we're in and looking at a specific, policy area, for example, that a politician might say the health system is broken and this is the way to fix it. It's a bit of a revolution, but disguised as gardening. Actually stepping back and saying, right, how does the sun impact on this, or the shade, or the wind, or the direction of the water flow through the system? It kind of just gets you to step back and observe from outside of the system that you're trying to do. So if you've got a problem with slugs, you don't have a slug infestation, you've got a duck deficiency. It's kind of reframing your problems. We're also working on the ecosystems that are our catchments, the rivers that flow, say at the bottom of the hill there, flows down to the sea. But we're connected to the neighbour who lives across the other side of the valley, or the guy who lives up the stream or down the stream. And we're having those conversations now about how we restore the ecosystem of the catchment, and then beyond that then the county or the country. Starting with the patch that we have and being aware of what we're doing here and how that impacts in the other areas around. The neighbours are working inside their industrial agricultural systems. They have one output, which is either beef or milk. They're intensively farming that land to have that end product and have money come in the door. But that's not in harmony with what nature wants, and it's driving birds out, bees out. Anything that sort of doesn't fit with their own end product isn't important. And it's very intensively managed for that one particular purpose. When An Mór happened, the people were eating just the lump of potato, for example, and then one fungus comes and kills that one crop. If you have nothing else to eat, if you have nothing else to rely on, all your eggs are in that one basket, and that's failed. So what's your backup plan? Our approach to it is that it's sort of a multi-layered system. There's trees on the top, and we have got a pond for water. Like, there's integrated systems, and if, for example, we have a drought one year, the trees are more deeply rooted, so we'll have maybe fruit from the trees. There's more resilience in the system because there's more systems in play.
So when we think about climate change, when we think about biodiversity loss, when we think about food insecurity, when we think about forced migration and some of these issues, it can feel very, very overwhelming. And yet soil, and listening to the soil and working with the soil in a restorative way, can be one way to tangibly and in a very tactile way do something on our one little patch that can contribute to something a bit bigger. So imagine if everybody got to know their own soil, got to know their soil's needs, and started working with the soil as part of a wider ecosystem restoration, as part of a wider ecosystem revolution, a soil revolution happening. That's what we would love to see, and that the soil and people and wider nature are in more harmonious balance. Okay, so that was a video from our context here in Ireland, but I'm very aware there's people from very different contexts with very different stories. So we want to introduce now 2 quotes that we have found as we've been going on this journey of Soil Soul Society. And what we're going to do is introduce the 2 quotes, and then there'll be an invitation to go into small breakout groups to discuss with each other some of the aspects of these quotes. So the first is from a great seed advocate, political activist, writer, Vandana Shiva. And she says the following: when I talk about relationship, first our relationship has to be with the soil, with the earth. We have become disconnected with the soil, with the earth. Dirt is not dirty. Soap is dirty with chemicals. Our relationship with the earth, with the soil, with the plants, walking on the earth, walking on the soil. Soil is our mother, we are soil. And then the second quote that we came across, and actually this picture on the screen that you see, this is actually a picture of soil under the microscope, and we just think it's just beautiful altogether. I've never seen soil up close before. So that's just a picture of soil under a microscope. And the second quote,
Sorry, just to say, Grania, that all those different marks, they're all trillions of or billions of living organisms. So all them, everything you see there, it's not just they're not marks, they're life.
yeah. So this quote was from a project called the School of Soil Futures, and it was an arts catalyst. And this quote came from a presentation by a woman called Frances C. Koya Vakauta, and it was titled "Counter Narratives: Decolonizing Stories We Tell Ourselves About Ourselves." And she introduced herself as a Pacific Island daughter, as a mother, as an educator, a writer, and an artist. And she was looking at the practice of storytelling from a Pacific decolonial perspective. But I thought the quote that she shared was really, really beautiful. She said, "In English, soil evokes dirt, agriculture, or the homeland. In multiple Pacific languages, instead, soil has meanings connected to the womb, to the placenta, to the people, community, place, and country, echoing interconnectedness and spirituality." And so I'm going to invite you now in a wee minute. Gareth's going to start arranging these into different breakout rooms. But we've got 20 minutes to just consider those two quotes by Vandana Shiva and Francis C. Koya Vakauta. And just to have a chance now to hand the microphone over to yourselves. And so in smaller groups, just to talk about what is your relationship with soil? Maybe you have a relationship, maybe you don't have a relationship, and that's okay too. That's very normal. I know that Vandana Shiva also said another quote about how many times a day do we touch soil, but how many times a day do we touch our mobile phone? How many times a day do we touch our children? So I thought it was a really nice way just to think about that daily relationship with soil. And then those two quotes are from two very different parts of the world. And obviously the video was very centered on our very local context in Ireland. But we want you to consider how might cultural and historical contexts affect how we treat the soil. So what we'll do is I'll copy those two questions into the chat box, and I'll also share the two quotes again as well. And Gareth, how are you getting on?
Yeah, good to go.
You're good to go. Okay. Well, I'll just copy these two quotes again, just so people have it under their chat box. There we go. Is that all right? Okay, so it's 3 minutes to the hour, whichever hour you're going on. And so we'll meet back here then in 20 minutes, and we'll have a wee bit of a chance just to share then. Is that okay? So see you back here in 20 minutes. Beautiful. There's a different energy just looking at all your faces now. So there was about 9 breakout rooms, and I don't think we don't need to go through each room and hear what you talked about. But what would be really lovely, what would be really interesting, is just if there was some insight or some essence of that conversation that you think would be just really valuable to share with this wider group. We're gathering here on World Soil Day and we're having chats about soil, and it looks like there was some really beautiful conversations. So if anybody would like to share any of that essence or any insights that you took from the smaller group conversations, there's some space here now. So I'll just stop talking and anybody can jump in. Silence.
Well, in my group, there was this shocking realization about the phone. You mentioned this quote, and we were all quite convinced we were doing good with our relationship with soil and then we compare with the time we held soil versus the time we held the phone, and that was a little bit of a shock. So yeah.
Great. Thank you, Andrea. Yeah. Anybody else?
Well, in our group, we talked about soil and the earth as a mother, Mother Earth that's always nourishing and always providing us whatever we need, the nourishment and the care. And we talk also about Gaia, the earth, as a goddess, and the feminine aspect that's always taking care of us. And without Gaia, without the earth and the soil, we wouldn't be here. We're part of it. And we should respect it since she is the mother.
Beautiful. Thank you, Eduardo. It's beautiful. Anybody else? Yeah.
Well, in our group, we talked about the fact that when actually living in big city, the relationship with soil is very poor. And the fact of sometimes when you've been raised in big city, you're told, don't get muddy, don't put your hands in the dirt. And that also resonates with Vandana Shiva quote, who says, people used to say soil is dirt, but it is the microbes or the pesticide we put into our food that actually is dirt. And well, I live near a big city, but now there is this movement of trying to get more connected to the earth, to the soil, with community gardens, growing your own vegetables. So I think it is slightly changes, but it's really, it's quite slow. But we also said that it was always very beneficial to spend time in nature, so whenever we can.
Thank you for that, so Isaac. And that idea of having access to nature and being able to spend time in nature, that was one of the questions that came up for us during our project, Soil Soul Society, because not everybody has that privilege of access to green spaces. And what are we doing about that? That was kind of one of the social justice questions that came up for us. Would anybody else like to come in with any insights or aha moments or just a flavor of your conversation?
I guess just a thank you, because it reminded me of this lovely time at climate camp, and I went barefoot for a while, and just that lovely feeling of the mud like squelching through your toes and that playfulness with that, and like not needing to hold up that thing of being clean and being like acceptable to the rest of society, like just the playfulness of really being in the muck and enjoying it. So thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Laura. That's lovely. It's a nice reminder that we all need to be getting on our bare feet more often. Hello. Wee fairies just joined us. Anybody else like to come in?
The fairy will comment a little bit. So now that we're mentioning phones and sort of in that spirit of unity, I think that everything we do, like everything we do is a choice. So in the end, even the phone could be used, to feed that energy, to find the channels that in the end nourish, or again, make people aware, and, just being in that energy of love and bringing things together instead of seeing the contrasts. Thank you, sweetie. I just got a lovely tattoo from the fairy too.
Oh, the fairy give you a tattoo. Beautiful, beautiful way to illustrate that love that you're talking about, Sylvia. Thank you. Yeah, so just where we put our intention is and our attention. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay. We'll just just from what you were saying, Laura, it was very appropriate. Because we've got a wee meditation now that we would like to share with you. And throughout this session this evening, we are bringing to life or sharing with you some of the content that we've put into 2 resources that we've produced as part of this project. So this meditation is going to be one of the meditations in the resource that we produced. And there's going to be a wee bit of imagining being on your bare feet in the soil. So if you haven't had that experience in your life before, you can have a wee minute now just to run outside and stick your feet in the soil. And if not, hopefully many of you have had that opportunity before, and will rely on that memory and that imagination. So for this, I'll just invite you just to enjoy it. You can keep your cameras on, or you can put your cameras off, or whatever. But just a wee moment now, a little moment, just to arrive, just to settle. Allow your feet, if it's possible, to connect with the earth. Or else just imagine that connection. Imagine that connection between your feet and the earth. And just breathe. And allow your nervous system to settle down. For the next few moments, there's nothing else to worry about. Only just be here, breathe, and allow yourself to settle. And I just invite you to notice any sensations in your feet, in the soles of your feet, any sensations in your toes. How are your feet? How are your soles? And I'm going to invite you now, just like what Laura shared with us, just to imagine standing barefoot on the soil. Just to bring that body imagination into somewhere on this earth, and imagine standing with your bare feet on the soil. How does it feel? How does that sensation feel underneath your feet? Is it warm, soft, cold? Is it dry? Is it wet and squelchy? How does it feel? And how does it make your body feel? And how does it make your being feel, your soul? And just once again, take a wee moment now just to breathe. I'm going to invite you now to imagine that the boundary between your bare soles and the earth are beginning to blur. You are growing through the soil, from the soil. You are becoming soil. Through your soul, roots are starting to burrow down through the earth. Your body is firmly planted and is thriving in this soil. Breathe in this sensation of being firmly planted and thriving in this soil. Just breathe. Now, when you're beginning to feel grounded and connected, standing in the place you're standing, bare feet in the soil, becoming soil, I want you now to notice any parts of your body that want to speak. The invitation is to listen to these parts, even if they don't quite make sense. Listen to the earth pulsing through you. Listen to the earth under your feet. Listen to yourself through this connection. What does the earth have to say? And just another wee invitation and reminder just to breathe in this moment. And enjoy any sensations and experiences for as long as it feels good to be here. And when you're ready, I want you just to thank the earth for holding you and for sharing this experience with you. I invite you to begin to come back into your body, into the human being body that you occupy. Notice the air on your face. Notice the atmosphere, the energy in the room you're finding yourself in. You might want to wiggle your fingers or your toes. And all the time remembering to breathe. Now, if you feel comfortable, you can start to move as and when and how it feels comfortable. And now, without speaking, without the need to speak, if you have some paper close by, there's an invitation now to jot down any words or images or symbols that's coming up for you. And there's going to be about 5 minutes now just to doodle, draw, write, flow. You might just want to put down pen and paper and just move around the space. You might want to just talk with your body. But if there's words, write down the words as they've arrived. And if it's possible and if it feels natural, you can put those into a wee poem or a bit of prose. So I'll stop talking now and give you a wee bit of space just for yourselves to take some time just by yourself for the next 5 minutes and jot down anything that came up for you.
couple of people just joining us there. So we're just writing a few words based on a meditation.
Just give you 1 more minute just to finish off. Okay, so just inviting people just to gently bring that to a close. And again, the space is open if anybody would like to share either what you wrote or how you found that experience. But there's no pressure, absolutely no pressure. So would anybody like to come in at this stage? Yes, Sazik.
Just actually, I enjoyed the meditation, and I am actually now yawning, so I'm to be ready to go to sleep. And I just wrote some word like soil, numbness, green, tiredness, immobility. But then I just wanted to draw, so I started to draw on my paper, and it was nice just to be using my pen, not really knowing what I was doing, or just for the gesture, like automatic drawing, and Anna quite liked it.
Beautiful. Great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else?
Hello. So this is my little. It's a book I really love. It's about the Vikings, the wolves of the sea, and yeah, sort of in that feeling of connecting and being one with it all. It brings expansion, right? It always builds. It always grows. So. Thank you. It was lovely. And to reflect that, my tattoos are growing too.
Oh. Thank you, Sylvia.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
I
Anybody?
can maybe share. During the meditation, I had like a visualization of myself walking in woods, and I drew something. I don't know if it's very visible because it's not so probably good quality of the camera. Here is myself connected with roots, and here is another tree, and I saw like something what soil was speaking, and it was, I want to drink, I'm dry, and please respect me.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. That's gorgeous. It's lovely. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else like to come in?
Yeah, I also feel like adding a little bit. Yeah, I mean, from the beginning, also with the meditation is just being in one-to-one date with soil, and because normally I'm more, in relationship with nature and different beings, but now just naming it soil, it brings a different flavor. And I made also a drawing. I don't know if you can see some mountains. I just started, and I don't know. It just it calmed me, and I started drawing the blades of grass, and then these blades of grass took the shape of the mountains, and yeah, it gave me a good feeling.
Great. Thank you, Bogdan. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else?
Hi. After the meditation, I wrote a couple things and cared a little bit for the non-human beings in my home, and played some piano. And actually, I feel kind of sad right now because this session reminded me of this connection that I'm lacking with nature as someone living in a mediocre city, like, any kind of city life. And yeah, I think I'm feeling a bit sad and vulnerable right now.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Ken. I'd say I can connect to how you're feeling as well. And that's us, like beings as nature, isn't it? We're just that's kind of longing. I heard a beautiful word which describes the feeling of homesickness for a place that you don't know where it is. And I really like that because this feeling, it's almost like an ache or a pain that I think a lot of us humans feel, of that separation, but not having the words for this. So the word that I had learned was from Welsh language. So I suppose it's just about honoring that sadness that you're feeling. And yeah, we see you with that tonight. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Would anybody else like to come in at this stage? Tudor? Yeah.
I saw during that meditation something that I really want to achieve. I saw this really black, damp, rich soil that had little spots of grass here and there, but it felt really comforting and nice to the touch. And that's something that I wish to get when I get my own house, to have that kind of soil around me.
Mm,
Thank you.
beautiful. Thank you, Tudor. Thank you. Okay. Okay, well, the next thing that we would like to do is we've been lucky enough to be able to see, as I was mentioning earlier, soil under the microscope, and for us it was really life-changing. Just being able to see what soil looks like up close. So we'd like to share with you two videos. One is of a wee nematode doing their little dance under the microscope, and one is of a soil that has high microbial life in it. So I'll just play these for you, if I can. Oh, are you seeing that screen? No. No.
No, we're not.
Okay. Is that all right there? Yep. Okay. So these images come from a group in Ireland called KPM Soils, and they're able to look at crazy close up in a really, really intense way, right down to seeing the activity of little nematodes. And what we love about being able to look, so there's a lot of life and there's a lot of activity in this soil that you can see. So we're just watching Kevin just looking at soil up close and just kind of taking the microscope around, just looking at different bits of it. So when he does this, he's looking at what's alive in the soil, what's going on, what different activity, what different organisms are there. And I suppose we just felt very privileged to be able to see this soil up close. We've also seen soil that maybe is not so healthy, and comparing that with soil like the one we've just seen is just very interesting. And so this idea of that soil is alive, and when we first started getting together with the other partners on this project 2 years ago, actually, we looked at, again, we used language as a way into understanding this idea of soil, soul, and society, and we looked at the origins of the word human. So human, humus, hami, humility. So all these words relate to the earth, coming from the earth. The humility needed by us humans, as some of the beings sharing the earth with other beings. But this idea of we're not actually that different or so much separated from soil, and this idea of soil being a society in itself. So just like the societies that we maybe find ourselves in, all societies are these very complex and dynamic equilibriums. And societies can be healthy and dynamic in a way that's generative, just like soil. When healthy soil is working well, it can be very generative. But like that, also, if we don't treat the soil well, it can degenerate. And one of the things that we've been doing through this project is inviting people just to have curiosity with the soil, through observation, through interaction. So whether that's very, very up close and personal, like underneath the microscope, or whether it's just taking off the shoes and kind of having a chance just to connect with the soil in that way, or whether it's through treating the soil, working with the soil to improve the soil's health over certain periods of time using different approaches. And from Síolta Cree, the work that we do in terms of ecosystem restoration, we would be looking at regenerative approaches to soil restoration. So currently what we can see, especially amongst, maybe farmers or the dominant systems within some horticultural spaces and agriculture spaces, is that there's typically very chemical and mechanical ways of what's called managing soil. Where soil's probably well fit to look after herself. And I suppose the question we've been asking is looking at what are the cultural, behavioural and mindset shifts that are needed, as well as we've been experimenting and learning a huge amount ourselves on different biological ways to look at soil health and to promote the life within the soils. And that tagline that I mentioned at the beginning, regenerating people and wider nature. So we would see ourselves as humans, hummus. We would see ourselves as being connected to wider nature. And the regeneration of us as human beings is really important alongside the regeneration of wider ecosystems. So what is that needs restored within the soil? What is that needs restored within me? What is that needs restored within our communities? And how are they not separate entities, but how can this be one dynamic dance that we're sharing together? And so the big question, just to kind of bring in, and again, this is giving you just a taste of what it is that we've been exploring that's been represented in these two resources that we would love to share with you at the end. So how is it that the healing of the soil can help heal the inner, which is the inner inside myself, and the outer, those kind of societal and social justice worlds in these times of confusion, chaos and collapse? And so this idea that we haven't been trained for the uncertainty and the chaos of these times, but what can we learn from soil, and how can we restore ourselves through an increased relationship with soil and wider nature to help steer us through? And you can just see down there just some of the many different issues that we're dealing with. And soil, from a regenerative point of view, soil can hold the answers to many of these crises that we're finding ourselves in. And not to be prescriptive about that, but again, just to open up curiosity about what that is that we could learn from soil for ourselves, but also what's happening in the outer worlds that can steer us through these times. It is possible. So it's just about how is it that we can navigate that. And again, just looking at this idea of ecosystem restoration and bringing the soul element into it. So again, we're always dancing between soil, soul and society. So what does soulful ecosystem restoration look like? So I think we're all aware of the urgent need to heal and restore biodiversity and wider nature. And from a soul perspective, this actually can be an opportunity for us to return to many of the indigenous ways of being, retrieving that place-based ecological knowledge, and the healing and promotion of a renewed partnership between humans and wider nature. So we're really interested in what do Indigenous practices look like? What does indigeneity look like? And what can we learn from our ancestors, either in the land we find ourselves in or the lands that we've come from? And there was a beautiful quote there just in January of last year, so nearly 2 years ago, by a woman called Lila June, and she was it was a talk on food sovereignty, but I really liked her quote and we thought it would be really good to include it there tonight. And she said, Indigenous people didn't garden gardens. We cared for whole forests, for whole ecosystems. Indigenous management was at massive regional scale. Minding all life, not just little pockets, was our job to tend to the whole system. We need the whole system if we are really going to work regeneratively. So that idea, and I suppose the evidence of that is in the incredibly healthy soils that many of those Indigenous communities left behind, but also the knowledge and the wisdom of our ancestors of how to care regeneratively for soil has not completely disappeared, and there's so much opportunity for us to learn from those Indigenous practices and restorative ways of caring and tending to the soil that can keep soil healthy for years to come.
Allah ka bani abin kai sai wani mita kake mu ba mu fitowa da wuri. Allah. Ko idan so
Again,
ya ba
this
wai kai
this
kayan nan
webinar
ya
has
ga mota.
been maybe less about the science of soil. There's been a lot coming out about the science of soil in recent years, and it's all very exciting and it's all very innovative. Actually, people are making all these soil science discoveries, and obviously composting is a really key practice within soil management and soil health. And there might be a few people on the call this evening that recognise a few of the faces there in that photograph. But taking this idea of composting at a conceptual level, and again, this is bringing it from the soil work and the care of the soil health, and then taking it to this societal level. What is it that needs composting? So these two academics, Arthur and Jentic, they framed the idea of composting of settler nationalisms. And we thought this was a really interesting we thought this was just quite an interesting framework that we wanted to share with you. So this idea of when we think about waste, colonial projects are based on the assumption of Indigenous lands as disposable and often laid to waste along with the knowings, beings and doings tied to Indigenous lifestyles. So whether that means that, the extractive mining industries coming into Indigenous communities, whether that's laying waste to the practices of seed saving and caring for the soil that Indigenous communities did so well. So this idea of the waste project, and we see this very evidently in many of our communities today where there's huge waste issues based on capitalism, the buying and the throwing away. And then something's promoted very much within that system is recycling. We're told to recycle. We're told it's good to recycle. And I suppose bringing that into this framework of what is that needs composting or composting settler nationalisms. Recycling is the post-colonial process of keeping the colonial project going. So one in which many post or currently colonised societies can often be complicit within. So thinking about what is that is really not being challenged, or it's just what is being recycled that maybe isn't serving the majority of humanity anymore. What are the economic systems? What are the extractive industries? How is consumerism arguably like an extension of the colonial project, keeping things going, individualism, this idea of humans being separated from nature. So how are we continuing just to recycle some of these ideas, and how can that be interrupted? But then what they propose and what they're suggesting is this idea of composting. So the strength of the composting process. So thinking about what is that when we compost, we take that which is left over that we no longer need from gardens or from the natural nature waste that comes to us every year, and it's transformed. So whenever we compost, we turn that which is no longer needed, which is excess waste material, and we turn it into something that is just like what you had described, Tudor, like really, black, beautiful soil treatment, soil food, keeping the microbes going, keeping everything turning over and healthy. So applying that to this framework, the strength of this process is that transformation is possible, considering what is it that needs composting and considering knowledge and ways of being as part of this. So we could apply this to ourselves. We could apply this to our own souls, our own individual beings, to say, okay, we're on the 5th of December. We're in the winter time for the northern hemisphere. So what is that maybe needs composted in myself so that I can create space for something new to emerge in the springtime? But some of the feminist theorists push this to a different level, and they were saying, actually, what are the systems, the stories, what ways of living and being are needing composted at this time? And so it's taken that idea of compost and just applying it into the systems and structures. So as well as the individual, what are the systems and structures? So again, taking this beautiful process of composting and applying it to the systems that we're finding ourselves in that are maybe not serving the majority of humans as well as wider nature. Okay, so I'll just stop sharing there because there was a while lot of frameworks and a while lot of words thrown at you there. So just to check in, how is everybody doing, and how's that landing with people? These are okay. All right. Okay. A few thumbs there, a few thumbs. That's okay. And just to remind you again, these are just some of the ideas that we've written more about in more detail, and some of these workbooks that we'd be really happy to share with you. Is that okay? I just want to check in with. Oh, thank you. That's great. Okay. So at this stage, we were going to go into a wee breakout room to kind of look at this in more detail. But I'm trying to just check the temperature just to see maybe people are we maybe in a lower energy that we maybe want to just, yeah. Maybe it's not about raising the temperature again. It's quite hard to tell on Zoom, isn't it? Maybe I'll rely on some of my co-people. Yeah. Would you be up for having a wee chat about that idea of what needs composting? Or we can just kind of maybe wrap up a wee bit earlier. Show of hands. We breakout room? Show of hands for a breakout room. Wee thumbs up.
No breakout room.
Okay. Okay. Well, maybe, yeah. Few wee thumbs there. Okay. Well, I suppose we'll maybe just go in for a shorter amount of time, just to get this conversation, because I think we're quite excited about this question, and it's one that we wanted to. It's one that we were really curious about how it would land with people. This idea of, what is it needs composted within me, but what are the systems and the structures that are needing composted in this world at the minute? And what would that even look like? Like, I struggle enough making compost for my own soil. So how would we go about composting some of those systems and structures? So Gareth, if you're okay just to get the breakout rooms ready, yeah. And we'll have about it's 2 minutes past the hour, so we'll come back at 10 past the hour, if that's all right. Welcome back. Okay, everybody, welcome back. How did you get on that time around? Any feedback? Anybody have any insights to this idea of what we can be composting? What systems, what structures, what can be composted on ourselves?
I think I would like to compose my comfort zone.
Great, thank you, Ken. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I feel like composting needs a little bit more time because we just started some deeper talks. But where our focus went to, it was about the past, about some experiences or relationships that could be maybe challenging, maybe not too pleasant, but to work them through and then create some new quality based on the past. That was like where our attention went to.
Beautiful. Thank you, Elaine.
I thought about how much effort and skill and creativity in the world that we have loads of goes on doing things that are quite purposeless, like making stuff that nobody needs, or like a lot of jobs and a lot of businesses are based on getting money from people rather than giving anything. And like making disposable plastic things, or I feel like some businesses like insurance and stuff that is more about getting money than giving. But if all of that effort and all of that like creativity and intelligence and skill, if all those structures fall apart, all of that energy could be put into creating beautiful things. And we have so much capacity as a species.
Yeah. Thank you, Siobhan. Yeah. And now is the time. Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else? I think, as you said, Elaine, it's not a question that could be tidied up or fixed or kind of secured in just one short 2 hour Zoom session. And just like compost, it's one maybe that we would invite you to take away with you this evening, and maybe just to start noticing what are those things that needs composting. It might be I've got a load of leaves on my lawn and looking at and going, right. So maybe as I gather the leaves, I might start thinking of those other things. And as you mentioned, composting, it takes time. Good compost takes time. We could do it quicker, but sure, where would be the fun in that? And it takes a wee bit of effort too. There's a good bit of turning of the compost. There's a good bit of the timing and looking at what are the right materials that we need. And it's not just one, but it's a complex system of different things going on. So I just think composting is great. It's just beautiful. And all those things that you guys have been mentioning, and I'm sure a lot more that you were talking about in the breakout rooms. Yeah, I suppose our invitation is just for you to take that away and just to kind of sit with it, maybe over these winter months when things are slowing down, but the compost is continuing to heat up. So thank yous for bearing with me in my indecisiveness. That's where I'm at the minute of trying to read this room of beautiful people at this time on a Thursday evening. So let me see now, where are we at? I'm going to share the screen with you again. We're nearly there, everybody, imagine. Is that it there? No, not that one, sorry. I'm getting lost now in Zoom.
Is it the resources, Grania?
Yeah, I'm just looking for
I have them here. Which one do you want me to share?
I was just looking for my PowerPoint. Is that it there? Oh, there we're back again there. Okay. So that was the composting. Yeah, so Gareth just mentioned the resources. So as part of this project, there's been a lot of different resources created by the 3 different partners, Dreams for Life, Cobiete, and ourselves. So we just wanted to talk you through some of the two physical or book resources that we've created, and then we've got some videos as well looking at different aspects of soil. We've got videos on seed sovereignty, farming and soil, agriculture and soil. We've got a video looking at fungi, which is really exciting. And then humans, more than nature beings in the land. So we've got, if you look at our YouTube channel, we've got a lot of different. Hey?
I will share the list, the link.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, you can share our YouTube channel. So there's different videos that we'd just like to tell you about if you are interested and want to follow up on some of the more specific issues that we've been looking at. And then in terms of the resource, so this resource is we decided that when we're talking about soil, rather than thinking about it like generally, and what we found that we were being called to do was to talk very specifically, coming really very local into our specific place. And I know some people on the call tonight have been to Shieltacree, have been to our wee small patch of land in County Monaghan in Ireland. And for us, that was really important to write from where we were standing, to tell the story of where we were standing, of where we were working from. And so we wrote this resource just called Shieltacree, Our Story. And we wrote it for community groups and youth groups in terms of doing ecosystem restoration work. But the themes that we used, so we wanted to look at land, food, and seed sovereignty. We wanted to think about boundaries. Boundaries is it's a very topical issue. But what do boundaries look like in nature? How does nature see boundaries? and how can we use boundaries to be regenerative and generative as opposed to exclusive and separating people. I suppose this idea of healing the land and restoring the soul, looking at the stories and some of the memories and maybe the traumas of the land, and what that can do for healing the soul and the cultural soul of land bases. Looking at soil and ecosystem restoration and the hugely important role that soil plays. Looking at structures and spaces. So when we are thinking about land and thinking about spaces, how we can make decisions about how to plan out spaces. And then something that's very close to our hearts is the more than human beings with whom we share the land. And they've had no bother letting us know that they're there over the last couple of years and helping to guide us into listening to them, and helping to guide the work for that. So that's one of the resources that we'll share in the
chat box now.
It's in the docs. Thank you, Gareth. That's brilliant. And then this is the one that we've been leaning a lot on this evening. This resource is give it a very innovative name, called it Soil, Soul and Society. But the tagline is looking at how can we heal the inner and outer worlds at this time of chaos, confusion and collapse. So again, just looking at this idea of digging where we stand, what is that we really need to pay attention to in all of our local spaces. So that's questions we have to ask ourselves of in the places that we find ourselves in Ireland, and the invitation for wherever you find yourselves in the world. Looking at this idea of ecosystem restoration being the main way that we're working with the land at Shielta Cree, but looking at the importance of soil and soul while we're doing this practical ecosystem restoration work. A lot of the work that we're starting to do in a big way is working with farmers in Ireland. So looking at regenerative agriculture. And we've had some beautiful moments with farmers over the last year or two, looking at farmers really coming back to life as their soil has been coming back to life, and the wider ecosystem benefits that can be having in terms of the farming benefits, as well as for the people as part of the ecosystems. Soil and soul, the only difference is you and I. So looking at that transient boundary between soil and humans and wider nature. Soil and society, composting our shit. So that's basically looking at how you make good compost, but also then continuing on this conversation that you guys were just having in the breakout rooms there about what is it that needs composted and how is it we go about doing that as a society. And then looking at that idea of training ourselves for these times. So these times they're chaotic, they're confusing, they're very unpredictable. And for those of us who've been in mainstream education systems, we've mostly been trained for predictability. We've been trained for the assumption of jobs being there. We've been trained for certainty. And now we're in this time when we maybe do not have so much of that certainty or ability to control what that is. And this is possibly the time when we can be looking to soil and wider nature for some of those answers for how we steer ourselves through these times. So that's just a wee flavour. That's a flavour of two of the resources, and just walking you through that in case the notion would take you and you would just like to dip into that. And again, they're written from the perspective of the invitation for you to take that back to the groups that you would be working with. Okay. And then we just wanted to share a quote from this woman called Dr. Erin Ewan McMorrow from a book she wrote called Grounded, a fierce feminist guide to connecting with the soil and healing from the ground up. And this book really was the Bible for us. It was so instrumental in guiding where we went with this project in terms of soil, soul and society. And so we'll just come to an ending now with this quote that she shared. Widening circles of sisters and brothers working together to create the new economy, the new healing work, the new agriculture, the new technology, the new cities, the new relationships, the new loving, the new communicating, the new intimacy, and the new dying. So we just wanted to end on that note tonight for whoever you are and whatever it is that you be up to and wherever you find yourselves. just this idea of this is the time when things are being composted and all these regenerative possibilities. And I get a huge amount of hope from that quote. So I just wanted to share that with you, just by way of ending the session this evening. So thank you so much for staying with us and for joining in the conversations and for coming so late on a December evening. It's just I was very nervous about this evening, but very excited to be marking World Soil Day. It's just such an important day in the year, and it's just beautiful that so many people showed up to the call this evening to join the conversation and really to celebrate soil. I know there's so many people who are doing great work. There's people I know on this call, and there's a lot of people I don't know on this call. But whatever it was called you this evening to come and talk about soil, I just want to really thank you from the bottom of our hearts. I'll talk about our collective hearts at Shield Decree, and we hope to connect with you at some stage in the future. So thank yous. And that is us, Sinead.
Thank you. And I will jump here. I was not present in this workshop, but I want to take 1 minute and to thank you all for joining this event. This is the last workshop of the Soil Society meeting, and some of you join all the workshops. Some of you maybe join only 2 of them, and some of you only this one. And it's been an honor to be with you present throughout these 3 weeks. And I want to express my deep gratitude to Gronia, Garrett for this workshop, for Anna, Andrea, and Katarzyna for the one you held the previous week, and to myself for hosting the first one. And thank you all for being present here. We will keep you updated with some emails as a follow-up from this workshop to share with you more resources. And yeah, this is one of the last things that we are hosting in this project that will end at the end of this month. Soil Society that lasted for 2 years and a half. And soon this journey will end. And thank you all again. And yeah, feel free, Gareth, Gronia, Anna, Andrea, Katarzyna, if you want to share anything now, you're more than welcome. But from my side, thank you all.
I'll just share our website, and you can check us out or connect and sign up for that. And thank you, Bogdan, because you were the lead partner. So just to say that, thank you for Gronia for facilitating.
Thank you. Okay, Sinead, that's us. Take care, everybody, and happy World Soil Day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.